What's up guys, it's Aiden, and today we're going to go through how Travis Scott's My Eyes was made. Let's get into the video. This song was produced by Travis Scott himself, alongside Wheezy, Wondagurl, Vegyn, Bloody Ross, and Justin Vernon. And for my Patreon supporters, the FLP and the stems for this remake, as well as all the other remakes on my channel, will now be available to you guys. This remake is going to be an absolute just me spamming information to you about every aspect of this song, so it's going to be highly informative, especially if you make beats in this ethereal Travis Scott type of genre. Today we'll be going deeper than ever before into the music theory to try and uncover a method behind the madness that is Travis Scott type beats. And as you know, if you've heard the song, there are two different beats that we'll be going through today. Let's start off with beat number one. The tempo of beat number one is at 119 BPM. There are many ways you can calculate the tempo of a track. What we can do here is let the software calculate the tempo for you. So let's just go up to here and choose detect tempo. In FL Studio, this primarily works through transient analysis, and this is a really fast and precise way of detecting the tempo. However, it's worth mentioning that this will fail if the tempo is not consistent throughout the entire song. So for example, in My Eyes, the second beat, spoiler alert, is at 147 BPM. So currently FL Studio does not offer dynamic tempo analysis. In that case, we'll have to move on to the most precise form of tempo analysis, which is manual waveform analysis, which you can do by diving into the waveform and looking for yourself. And in the case of My Eyes, because it has such clear transients, you can very easily zoom in and see that it all lines up correctly with the project. So if we turn on the metronome, you can hear that it perfectly lines up with the project, no matter what part of the song you are playing, and therefore the tempo is in time. Now let's go through the components. Let's start off with the lead synth that introduces this song. I made this preset within Serum. So upon first listening, you might think that this sounds pretty similar to a sine patch with maybe a bit of chorus and reverb added on top, but upon closer inspection, actually a really full lush preset with a heavy low pass filter to make it less aggressive, yes, but also to have a huge presence in the mid to high frequencies. And this is important because it plays on its own for a significant portion of the song, so it needs to take up a significant portion of the frequency spectrum. This is a beautiful synth, so I want to go through this whole thing for you guys. So we're going to go into Serum, go to Oscillator A, Analog, Basic Shapes, and bring the wavetable position up to a square or a pulse wavetable. And we're going to go to the A warp and turn on sync. And let's bring up the modulation to 1.15%. It mimics the classic synchronization method that you would see in classic hardware synthesizers, where you have a master oscillator and a subordinate or a slave oscillator. As we increase the modulation depth to 1.15%, we are compressing and speeding up a portion of this cycle. And creating this asymmetric duty cycle causes a shift in the timbre, which makes it sound more metallic and harmonically complex without altering the fundamental pitch. So this is before, and this is after. So every aspect of sound design I'm going to show you today is deliberately making the remake sound closer to the original, and this is no exception. And to make it even closer, we're actually going to be using sync with half windowing. Adding windowing, which is what you can see here, smoothens the transitions between the synced portions of the wavetable. This smoothening process solidifies the fundamental pitch, which can be important if you're adding the syncing effect to the sound, and is going to clarify the final result. Then for envelope 1, which decides how loud the sound is going to play over time, creating a nice smooth volume curve for the sound, which is important if you're making pad sounds. We're turning on the noise oscillator, and we're going to be using micro Korg noise. Turn on one shot because you don't want the noise to be looping. Also make sure that pitch tracking is enabled. Otherwise, we're going to experience some phasing issues from having multiple of the same sounds playing simultaneously. I'll show you what I mean. So make sure it's turned on. This is only really an issue with pad synths because they often play in polyphony, meaning multiple sounds playing at the same time. Otherwise, it doesn't really matter. Let's bring up the level to -17 decibels. Then for the filter, we're going to be adding a more harsh one, MG Low 18, affecting both oscillator A, the noise oscillator, and turning on key tracking here as well. And key tracking, if you're unaware, makes the filter behave dynamically, which means that lower notes, the filter cuts off stronger, and then higher notes, as you can see, the filter opens up. And we're actually going to be doubling down on this pitch to cutoff relationship. Firstly, bringing down the cutoff to 0, going to the note number, and using that to modulate the cutoff as well. Then we're using the note velocity to modulate oscillator A by 20, the filter cutoff by 25, and the drive by 25 as well. So now we have made this synth velocity sensitive. So if I play it softly, it's more quiet, but if I play it hard, this is all because there are a select few notes that we are going to be emphasizing, specifically these ones. Then we need to add vibrato, also known as pitch wobbling. So we're going to go to the matrix tab, go to the source, we're going to choose LFO1, and for the destination, we're going to go to global and master tune. And let's just bring this up to 1, which means it's going to be wobbling by 1 semitone. As you can hear, that is too much wobbling, so we're going to bring down the output to 30%. Then we are going to
escape the matrix,
turn on reverb, and that is it for the preset. That's going to sound like this. Adding some chorus June 6 for some light chorus, RC20 retro color, and we're adding some tape 15 IPS. This emulates the noise of a tape machine operating at 15 inches per second. And we're going to be automating this noise so that it fades away in the intro. So we're going to tweak this parameter, go to Tools, Last Tweaked, and go Create Automation Clip. And that way you can see the noise fades away as we go through the intro. Next up, we have the drums, which in contrast to the synth are relatively simple. Adding some reverb and also automating the volume. That way it fades in the intro. That's beat number 1. Let's move on to beat number 2. The second beat for my eyes is different across the board. The tempo is now much faster at 147 BPM. We have a plethora of sounds to go through. Let's start off with this ethereal vocal preset from Omnisphere called the Atlantean Key Choir. This also creates a really nice ambience that outlines the chord progression for this section. Next up, we have a short pulsing synth from Serum, which is categorized by having no attack, no release, and no decay. So this synth is less dynamic and therefore less natural sounding and more synthetic sounding. And that's because of its aggressive, almost binary envelope. As you can see, we're playing this ascending pattern, which adds, you guessed it, tension. Then we're layering in this bit crushed synth keys preset. So to add this bit crushing effect natively within Serum, we're going to go to the Effects tab and distort the sound using downsampling. So this is before and after. Now, that might sound like bit crushing because of the added high-end frequencies. It's a sort of metallic sound, but in reality, you're actually getting this effect coming from a result of aliasing, which can result in a similar sound as a consequence of a reduced sample rate. Everything so far. Layering in more bit crushed keys from Analog Lab V. The preset we are using is the AC4 Reed Piano preset. Sounds like this originally, but this time we're adding bit crushing and aliasing using RC20 retro color. Then we are also automating the high cutoff on the filter as this sound opens up at the end of the song. So once again, if we are using an external plugin, you want to tweak the parameter, go to Tools, Last Tweaked, Create Automation Clip. So in the outro, it's going to sound like this. Then we're adding in another choir preset for some added ambience. for the bass preset, which interestingly plays throughout the rest of the song. So we don't have an 808 or a sub coming in. We're just using this rolling bass preset. This is called the Cut Me Real Deep Wobble preset. For effects, we're adding a low pass filter. Then Fruity Limiter to sidechain the bass preset to the kick. Then finally an imager. And a general rule of thumb, keep the frequencies below 150 Hertz in mono, which is particularly important for clubs and PA speaker systems. Then between 150 and 300 Hertz, it's generally a good idea to keep the bass relatively centered, but you can start to add some stereo separation. So this frequency range doesn't have to be completely in mono. Then between 300 and 600 Hertz, you can safely start to widen the stereo image. These frequencies typically contain the upper harmonics in bass instruments. So having this frequency range a bit wider can help contribute a sense of space to the final mix without running into too many phasing issues. And anything past 600 Hertz, realistically, you won't have to worry about having any phasing issues. So everything all together. Then we're adding another interesting sound to accent the mix. You can find this preset in Omnisphere. It's the granular bowed electric guitar. Adding in this Vox sample, pitching it up by 10 semitones, adding a band pass filter, and some reverb. So in the song. So now that we have this full vivid soundscape, we're going to add in the drums. These are literally all of the identical drums from the original song. So starting off with the percussion, we have the BWB Wave X Hat 44, which you can see we're bringing down by 1 semitone. And you can see that this is the identical sample by comparing the EQ of it to the original song. This is the original playing over an EQ. Look at that frequency just there. Just there. Or look at these frequencies. You can see those are the same frequencies. Matches perfectly. And it took me so long to find that sample, but I was so elated to find the original hi-hat sample because I spent so long looking for it. And this hi-hat plays a basic 2-step pattern with a singular roll. Next up, we have a perk coming in called Crash, which is interesting to me because this is obviously an open hat sample, but naming aside, this sample accents the first hi-hat with its syncopated pattern. So with the hi-hat, this is a pretty common technique in drum programming, known for adding elements like bounce, momentum, energy, everything so far. Next up, we have the identical snare sample sent to me courteous of Sulfur from our Discord server, which you can find in the description below if you're interested. BWB Wave 4 Snare 7. Once again, I'll compare this to the original song. And actually, a fun fact about this snare sample, it is the exact same snare that was used in Bryson Tiller's Exchange. Then for the kick, we actually have 2 separate kick samples that were used in the same pattern in the original song. Now we have both of those kick samples for you today, a compressed version of the overused kick. Check it out here. What's interesting is we have to reverse the polarity. So it's going to look like that. Then we have a separate kick. I've never seen this done before in a song ever, but here we go. The rack kick. Bang, look at that. Lining up, you can see it matches perfectly as well. And I suspect that they've done this because there are times when the kick and the snare are playing at the same time, and the original producers of this song thought that the overused kick was too powerful in playing simultaneously with the snare, so they decided to layer in the rack kick as well. Really cool little combination of sounds here. So you can see the rack kick isn't as heavy as the overused kick, and it works nicely with the snare. So everything so far. Next, and we're almost there, we have one of the catchiest synth melodies that I've ever heard coming in. I honestly think that this preset and the melody that it plays elevated this song to be my favorite song from the album. What is the sound I speak of? It is a synth, once again, from Serum. This was a complicated synth, to say the least. So I will not be going through everything in this video, but one really cool aspect of this preset that I had to show you is we are using the note velocity to automate the attack of the envelope that automates the cutoff of the filter. And the reason why we had to do this is because there are some notes in this melody where the attack cutoff opens up slowly and others where it has to stay open to make the sound more cohesive. And we're going to be playing this melody. So you can hear that some of these notes have a cutoff that opens up nice and slowly, and some that stay open. And that's going to sound like this. Man, it gives me goosebumps. Damn, I'm getting goosebumps right now. And layering on top of that, we have this choir preset coming in from Omnisphere called the Boys Choir R's. Sounds really weird on its own, but in the context of the song. It has this beautiful background ambience. And two more things to make this remake as close as possible to the original song. We are opening up Gross Beat and using the preset Vinyl Off, modifying the preset so it's a really short cutoff, and that introduces this section. Finally, to introduce the outro, we are going back to the identical snare sample and making this roll and delay effect at the end. It's going to sound like this. So, ladies and gentlemen, and I do say ladies lightly, here is the final result. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this remake from Travis Scott's latest album, Utopia. If you want to see some more remakes from his latest album, check out this one or this one. Comment what songs you would like to see deconstructed next. So the next remake will be first-person shooter, so make sure you subscribe with bell notifications so you don't miss when that video comes out. See you guys next time.